So multinational performance measurement and compensation, and this is the second portion or part of the chapter. So performance measurement in multinational companies. These are the additional problems. We just focus on the financial indicators or financial variables that can help us to figure it out the performance. But now we are looking at the real challenges or the practical challenges that is faced when we are evaluating the performance of subunits operating in different parts of the world for a multinational corporations. So additional difficulties faced by multinational companies is the economic, as I mentioned in the beginning, economic, legal, political, social, and cultural environment differs significantly across countries. Like European cultures are different than North American. North American culture is different than Asian culture, and Asian culture is different than European culture. So it's very, and the economic situation, the legal system, the political system, the social setup. So all these are very different. And so we have to keep it in mind, this scenario in, and for example, if one unit operating in some part of the world is showing less profit or less revenue or low sales, maybe the reason is the recession in that country. So if there is a recession in that country, the managers of that subunit cannot control that. It is beyond their control. It is beyond their. So we cannot evaluate the performance of a manager which is not directly responsible for that situation. So government in some countries impose controls and limit selling prices of a company's product. That is also possible, that we cannot increase the profit or a revenue by just increasing the price because of the limit set by the respective governments of the country. Available and cost of materials, skilled labor, and infrastructure differ from across countries. We all know that wages are not same in every part of the world. So wages are different. Skill set or skilled laborers availability, other laborers availability, non-skilled or unskilled workers availability. So there are a lot of different issues that can affect the performance of a manager, which is beyond control. That's the point. What we want to make it here, that there are certain points which are within the control of the manager and they perform poorly. In that case, the manager should be responsible. But if the point is which is beyond their control, like the economic situation of a country, like the government policies toward the price setting, like the availability of resources in that country or in that region. So these are the things that is beyond their control. Division operating in different countries account for their performance in a different currencies. And the lastly, that's but not the least important, is also when one of the very important issues is that if someone is operating in a country where their currency is depreciating, so in fact their profit is not going to their profit is not going to report in the US dollar or in a Canadian dollar as high because their currency is depreciating. So in that way, that's a currencies, different currencies operation. So we have to keep it in mind. So level of analysis differ between managers and some units. The performance evaluation of a manager, that is also very important. That we have to measure, and this is related with the what we discussed in the previous slide, that we evaluate the performance of a manager separate from the performance of the subunit, because subunit performance can be because of these reasons, but the manager's performance is we have to evaluate separate. So the performance evaluation of a manager should be distinguished from the performance evaluation of the manager's subunit, right? And such a division of the company, such as a division of, so it should be keep it in. So a basic objective is to, we have to differentiate the efforts, the skills, the other leadership qualities of the manager working in that region. We have to evaluate that as well. So trade-off, creating incentives and imposing risks. So an inherent trade-off between exists between creating incentives and imposing risk. So if we create a too much incentives to take projects which are risky, so they are basically imposing risk on the corporation. So an incentive should be some reward for performance, and incentive may create an environment in which the suboptimal behavior may occur. The goals of the firms are sacrificed in order to meet a manager's personal goal. So Enron was a very big company in 19 early 90s or yeah, in 1990 something, late 90s, the last decade of the 20th century. It was a big company dealing in energy sectors all over the world. But the bank they failed, and they some become a bankrupt. And uh, so one of the reason for the failure of, there are many reasons, there are many political or other reasons, but one of the reasons which researchers found in their failure, or the cause of their failure, so giant company, and when the giant company is on, and the industry is also growing, it's not because the industry is in problem. Failed. So the researchers found that the main reason is that their incentive systems are so designed in a way that the managers are taking risk, because their bonuses, their perks and privileges are all based on that, how much they are generating revenue or the money for the corporation. So in that case, that incentivize the managers to take too much risk. So when they take too much risk, what is going to happen? Ultimately, the company was bankrupt. So that's the gain that we have to keep it in mind when we are designing the compensation. Moral hazard, that is always there, because you know that the manager and the corporation has a relationship like a principal and agent relationship. So if the principal and agent relationship exists, the moral hazard is one of the problem that we can face in the agent principal agent problem. So moral hazard describes situation in which an employee prefer to exert less effort or report distorted information compared with the effort or accurate information desired by the owner, because the employee's effort or the validity of the reported information cannot be accurately monitored and enforced. So that's a moral hazard we always see. Balanced scorecard approach can be used to measure performance in more than one way. And ultimately, we are saying that we have to take a balanced scorecard approach to measure the performance, not only a single way of measuring the performance. In intensity of incentives. So intensity of incentives, how large the incentive component of a manager's compensation should be relative to their salary component. So there must be a balance between the salary and the incentives. If the incentives are too much and the salary is too little, in that case, the managers are going to take a more risk. And if the salary is too big and the incentives are too little, so they are not going to take any risk, and they become lethargic, and they are not doing this. Preferred performance measures. So preferred performance measures are sensitive to or change significantly with the manager's performance. Do not change much with the change in factors that are beyond the manager's control, and motivate the manager as well as the limit the manager's exposure to risk, reducing the cost of providing incentives. May include benchmarking. So we can set up there some benchmarking so that every manager is clearly knows that where the limits are. Performance measures at individual activity level. Two issues when evaluating performance at individual activity level. Designing performance measure for activities that requires multiple tasks. Design performance measure for activities done in a team. So it's challenging when we are evaluating the individuals. And very commonly, we as instructors also face the same problem when we get an assignment in group, right? So we don't know exactly and definitely it is not possible, it's humanly not possible that everyone is contributing very equally in the group projects or a group reports or group tasks. So in that case, or a team task, so in that case, what is going to happen, they some are getting a free ride over the others, and some are, so that's a problem with the individual activity level analysis. Compensation for multiple tasks. So if the employer wants an employee for a focus on a multiple task for a job, then the employers must measure and compensate performance on each of those tasks. So that's multiple tasking also make it not possible to compensate. Like for someone who is operating on a machine to stitch the shirts or pants, In that case, we can measure very because he is doing or she is doing a single job, so we can measure that how many shirts you stitch within an hour or within a yeah, week or within a month, and by this way we can design their compensation. But if they are doing multitasking, then it is very hard to use a single individual activity. Then we have to consider all the tasks they are performing in that case. Team-based compensation, companies use team exclusively, extensively for problem solving, and teams achieve better results than individual employees acting alone. Encourage employees to work together to achieve common goals. Encourage cooperation, balanced competition and cooperation by giving incentives to individual on the basis of team performance. So companies must reward individuals on a team based on a team performance. Now, in the last or very close to the end of that topic, we are talking about executive compensation plan, that how we design the compensation or lay out the compensation plan for C level executives based on both financial and non-financial performance measures, included a mix of base salary that is normal to live a life to work, uh, annual incentives such as cash bonuses, long run incentives such as stock options, and prerequisites or prerequisites such as life insurance, office with a view, and all these which includes vacation with a family vacation every year to their dream destinations, or maybe include which are what we call it as a perquisites. Well-designed plans use a compensation mix that balance risk, the effect of uncontrolled factors on the performance by year, and hence compensation. So with a short-run and long-run incentives to achieve the firm's goal, and emphasize achievement of organizational goals, administrative ease, and perceived fairness. Strategy and levers of control, that how we can develop a strategy and what are the levers of control for the corporation. Diagnostic control system, boundary system, belief system, and interactive control system. Each layer and lever is important and need to be monitored. Levers should be interdependent and collectively represents a living system of business conduct. So diagnostic control system, that we have to identify the problem. Diagnostic control system evaluate whether a firm is performing to expectations by monitoring and evaluating critical performance matrices, including all the factors what we discussed: ROI, RI, EVA, customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction. So these are basic diagnostic tests that we can do to measure the health of the business. So that's just like a human diagnostics test. So must be balanced by the other levers of control. The second lever of control is a boundary system, that we develop boundaries, that these are the limits that you have to play within that limit. Like any game, we have a boundaries for a soccer field or for a cricket ground. So we have a boundary that the game should be within that boundary. So boundary should describe standards of behavior and codes of conduct expected for all employees. So in our policies, we define the standards, and that standard should be meet, or we should be within that standards. So highlight actions that are off limit. If there's any off limit, a code of conduct describes appropriate and inappropriate individual behavior. So if it is very well defined policies or a code of conduct for the businesses, so that's going to give us what is appropriate, what is inappropriate. So belief system, that try to inculcate in the employees a system or a belief that articulate the mission, purpose, and core values of the company. They describe the accepted norms and patterns of behavior expected of all managers and employees with respect to each other, shareholders, customers, and community. So that's we have to develop in their minds what is a, and that's why we are saying that we develop a belief in that these are our standards, these are our core values, these are our mission, these are our and by satisfying all the customers, employees, and co-workers and all these things. The lastly is an interactive control system. Interactive control systems are a formal information system that managers use to focus organizational attention and learning to key strategic issues and track strategic uncertainties that businesses face. So this is what we called as a formal way of reporting things, what is going to happen, what is uh, the current status and all these things. This is a formal way of information flow from one person, from one employees to another. It can be upward flow or it can be a downward flow. So the both are part of it. So this is all what we want to discuss from the perspective of uh, performance measure in multinational corporation. Why we are emphasizing on this topic here? The reason is that when the corporations are operating at different locations. So it is very important for any business to design a compensation package or compensation structure in such a way that we keep motivated our employees, our managers, those who are operating at different locations. So this is all what I want to discuss. And by this way, we also finish this whole uh, course or a chapter or the topics we want to cover in this course. Uh, so thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed that course. And next week you have to do your exam, and exam is open so that you can do till certain time, and after that I'm gonna evaluate your exam. Once again, thank you very much, and hope that uh, you will watch these videos and get the ideas about these topics. Bye bye.